we get some people like that at a lot of shows, people who are like, we saw you in the cafeteria at this college, way back when. And it's great. It's not something that you don't want to stay in the college circuit. You don't want to only do the college circuit.
Yeah, you want to hopefully graduate.
This is about you both and your journey in music, and obviously we'll talk about the new stuff you have coming out with Ballroom Thieves.
Great.
Sweet.
Just so you know, right off the bat, we're recording our audio separately from the video. Right?
Oh, okay.
You're recording the video, right?
I record the video and the audio too. Well,
okay, great.
I mean, the Zoom file, usually the audio that comes from Zoom is usually really good. I mean, I don't know, they have some sort of compression on it and it comes out pretty good. And then I tweak that even more after the fact.
Okay, cool. We can send you an audio file of our side of the audio if you want it. Otherwise, it's up to you. Yeah,
I think it'll be all right. I appreciate it, though. Thank you so much for doing that. People have sent it in the past, and then it always sounds great, and then I'm like, it's all right. It's not. I mean, if you're an audio guy, you could hear it, but if not, it's kind of like it becomes more of a process than necessary, I think, for most people. But I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. Again, so this is about you both and your journey in music. The band started in Boston. Is that what I read?
Yeah.
Okay.
Band started in Boston.
Are you both from Massachusetts?
No, Cali's from Massachusetts. I grew up in Europe and then moved to Maine with my family when I was 13.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Cali, you're from the Boston area?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that a little bit. And then I'm curious about Martin, where you grew up.
Yeah, I was born in Boston. And my family moved to Franklin, Massachusetts, not long after.
Is that like a suburb of Boston? I'm so unfamiliar. Okay.
Yeah, it's about an hour from Boston.
Okay.
I love Boston. I lived there for a decade, from college till after. I miss it every day.
Okay. You're not there anymore? Are you both not? No. You're obviously okay. Did you move to LA or?
No, we're in Wiscasset, Maine.
Oh, rad.
About an hour north of Portland.
We wish we lived in LA, especially right now in the winter.
Sure. Good call. Awesome. Yeah. Well, how did you get into music then, Callie?
I started playing cello when I was 10. And it just went from there.
What drew you to cello? Like a family member or anyone in your family musical at all?
No, the cello itself drew me in. Called to me. Yeah. I always like to say that it chose me.
Chose you, and then you just continued with that throughout high school, college, and on?
Yep.
Wow, that's impressive. That's cool. All right, what about you, Martin? So you said you grew up in Europe. What country, born and raised? Where did you come from?
I grew up in Switzerland, near Basel, so the northwest corner of Switzerland. My mom is Swiss, my dad is American, and so I grew up there and lived there until I was 13, and then me and my family, we all moved to Maine.
What was your like parents got a different job, or like what took you guys from Switzerland to Maine?
Yeah, it was my dad's job. My dad got a job. He's an architect, and so he lost his job over in Switzerland. But there was always kind of a plan underneath everything of trying to move to the U.S. at some point, and so then they just took that opportunity. And yeah, us kids didn't have too much of a say in the matter. So
sure, I love knowing they always had a secret plan.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was that culture shock moving from Switzerland here, or to Maine, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy, that's for sure. I mean, the language barrier was really tough at first, and yeah, I mean, it's tough when you're 13 in middle school, saying goodbye to all your friends and all the people that you know, and moving to a brand new place, and especially Maine. Maine is very rural, and so I went from a place where you could take a train and a bus to literally anywhere in Europe, to a place where you need a ride if you want to go anywhere. So yeah, so it wasn't easy.
Was it hard? It's interesting. So I would never have guessed that you didn't like English was not your first language. Like, to be honest, like that's incredible.
It's like better than most English speakers, I think.
I know. Wow. Was that hard to adapt? Native. Yeah. Was it hard to adapt to that?
It definitely was.
Tricky language too, from what I hear.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up listening to it. My dad spoke English with his friends every night, so we it's not like we never heard it, but never took any lessons or anything. But then yeah, so the first couple months moving in 7th grade were pretty rough. I just sat in the back of the classroom and was like trying to pick up pieces here and there, but I don't know. It just once we moved, my parents said, we're not going to speak German to you while we're there, initially. And so we were just kind of thrown into the fire. And once you're forced to learn a language, especially at a younger age, you can pick it up pretty quickly.
Wow, that's really impressive. I mean, yeah, like I said, I would never have guessed in a million years that English was not your native language. But how did you get into music?
My dad played music. He played guitar, and his parents never allowed him to pursue it as a career when he was younger. So my parents were always very supportive of music and the arts in general. And yeah, I took drum lessons when I was 6 or 7, maybe a little later than that. And then when I was in high school, I wanted to learn the guitar, and so my dad taught me a couple chords, and then I just kind of taught myself from there. And
wow. Yeah. Why the drums? Why'd you start on drums? Just interested in those?
I was interested in them. My dad was in a band, and I really liked the drummer. He was a really nice, fun guy, so I just gravitated towards it, and I liked the idea of hitting stuff and making loud noises. And my parents like to say that they got me a drum set so that I could let out some of my energy and anger or whatever, and because I would keep it inside a lot. So mental
health.
Gotta
get the aggression out. That's yeah, funny. Exactly. That's my younger son is turning 6 next month. And in the beginning of quarantine, when that all happened, he's just like so much energy. We bought him an electric drum set. We're like, here you go, smash on this for a while. And we finally got him lessons this year. So it's funny or cool to see him like learning, how to play different beats and stuff. So it's cool that you kind of went that same, that's where you started out. And then you eventually got a guitar. You said your dad was in a band?
Yeah, he was in a band growing up, and he always wrote his own songs, and he played guitar. So yeah, he taught me some chords and initially, and yeah, E minor and G. That's how I started.
That's awesome. So you said he's supportive, but like, I mean, that's really cool to kind of see his son doing this as like a career path.
Yeah, I think he's like I mentioned, his parents wouldn't let him pursue music, and so I think that was a big reason why he's kind of living vicariously through me and another one of my siblings who also plays music. But yeah.
Okay, so you're not the only one in the family then that pursued music then?
No, okay. I have three sisters, and one of them pursued music. The other 2 are in the arts. They paint and draw, and yeah,
that's
do
cool.
Photography.
Right.
Everyone's trying to do their best.
That's amazing. And Callie, so you said you started on cello or played cello. You played bass in the band though, correct?
I do, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So when did you start playing bass? Was that later or?
Yeah, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, started playing for the bands.
Okay.
We needed low end, and I'm the low end zone. So I just took up bass, and now I almost prefer it when playing in the band because I sing a lot, and it's really hard to sing and play cello.
Oh, I'd imagine.
I stand and play cello now too, and that's not the best way to play cello. So I don't get like the greatest tone ever, and it's a little sad. So with all the singing, I much prefer to stand straight and play the bass. It's just a lot easier.
But you also play cello and sing in the band a bit too,
I do,
right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I've seen photos of you, like you have this gigantic cello. I would imagine that being so hard to kind of, that's just above me. It's crazy.
It's just hard to stand. It's like hard to get around it and sing at the same time, but I try my best. Are some
cellos like where you can actually hold it standing up? Is that a totally different instrument?
Well, bass, double bass is much bigger than cello.
Okay.
That would be taller than me. And the body would be bigger than mine. But the cello is about the same size as me, really. And then there's an end pin at the end of a cello. So I pull that out a longer distance. So I can stand up straight. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you go to college to pursue music or anything like that?
Yeah. I went to college
Okay.
in Boston at Berkeley.
At Berkeley? Oh, you did go to Berkeley. Okay.
Mhm.
So you were in what, orchestra throughout your, academic life, I would say? Middle
Yeah,
school, high
definitely
school?
always classical stuff. I was in the pep band and in the wind ensemble in high school as well. I played drums.
Oh,
And
really? You're also a drummer.
yeah, I sang in the chorus and I just did as much music as possible. And
Wow.
then yeah, all classical stuff though until college.
Okay. So never like in a band, like around town or anything like that?
No, I was in a lot of quartets.
Okay.
And I was in one quartet where we wrote our own music. So that was my first time kind of writing, and I loved that, composing. And then
Mhm.
yeah, no bands until college.
Okay. And then you ended up going to Berkeley. Did you also go to Berkeley, Martin?
No, I wouldn't have
Okay.
gotten in.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm curious on your story of getting into Berkeley. I've heard a lot of different kind of ways in, and was yours like a sight reading, come play all this stuff audition, or like what was your process to get into the school?
It does change every bunch of years. Funny you say that.
Yeah,
When I got in, it was audition based. I applied. I fortunately did not have to share my SAT scores.
that's
That
good.
was really great for me. Not really much of a standardized test girl, so
Nor am I. I had to take the
that was good.
ACTs to somehow
Yeah.
like even have a shot at college. I'm like, I can do okay if it's not just answering questions on some
Yeah,
super
right?
long
Like,
test.
what a crazy way to measure our intelligence, huh?
It's ridiculous.
Inaccurate. But
Exactly.
yeah. So they took they wanted me to audition, and I prepared a classical piece, and Appalachian, oh gosh, I can't even remember what it's called, but unimportant. I did some sight reading.
Mhm.
I did some like ear training, which was cool. It was the only college that asked for that. They sort of they play or sing you a little passage and you have to play it back to them. And I was really glad about
Wow.
that because I'm good at that, and I'm not as good at sight reading. So I think those scores maybe helped me get in. Um, I didn't enjoy, preparing all my scales and all the classical music, but I'm glad that they asked for the ear training stuff. It was
Wow.
cool. It was a great experience auditioning at Berkeley.
That's cool. Yeah, like I said, I've heard so many different stories, and some people are like, "Yeah, they just like let me in. I don't know how,"
Oh yeah.
or it's like I had to show up with a piece of music, and like you said, like sight read on the spot and do all these different things. It's funny how they kind of, I guess it depends on when you apply, if they need people or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, they
But
they change it all the time, which I kind of appreciate because there are so many ways to be a musician. And so I think they're just trying to find a good group of people to join their school every year or every semester. And I really enjoy that they change it.
I think it's really cool as well. And a lot of people I've spoke to also did maybe you did this as well. There's like a summer program before you go to Berkeley.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
didn't do that, but
okay, a
I
lot of
always
people
see those
go
kids. It's great.
and gets like a taste of what it is and if
Hmm.
this is something they'll be able to do. But I would think if they just started letting people in, because somebody told me like similar to what you just said, Martin, like, oh, they wouldn't let me in, or like they let people in and they're like failing out real quick because it's like I don't know how to I can't read music or I can't do this. Like I can write a great song, but that's not really I guess
Yeah,
all
that's
it takes when you're there.
yeah, there's a funny joke about Berkeley. I don't know how much it applies over the years as they change the audition process, but people say it's easy to get in and it's hard to get out.
Right, right. That makes sense. Or a lot of people will not finish, right? Isn't that kind of part of it
Right.
too? If you get a gig,
Yeah.
it's like, well, why am I going to keep, I landed what I was here to do and I did it in a year and a half or whatever it may be. Did you
Yeah.
end up finishing up at
I
Berkeley?
did. I did. Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm glad I
And
did.
then, and with you,
Maybe
Martin,
it
what?
will ruin my success, but sorry in advance.
No, no, no. So Martin, you came here to the States at 13 and your dad was in a band. Did he continue the band when he got here or start a new band or was that kind of
Yeah,
done?
he kind of he played his own music by himself, and then over the years he joined another band and started a new one, and yeah, so he's been in several bands since, and yeah, he's currently loving his current band. So
that's cool.
He's having a good time. Yeah.
Do you guys ever jam with him?
We not as much as we'd like. Yeah, I used to when I lived at home, and in college, when I would go home for the breaks, I would go and join his rehearsals and hang out and play some music with them, and that's really fun. But
special occasions,
yeah,
that's
holidays, cool. Yeah.
Never pull him up on stage for a Ballroom Thieves show?
Not yet. He would love to open up one of our shows with his band.
Oh, I know. Love that.
That'd be so
Someday.
Cool. That would be really cool. That'd be a great thing. So when do you start playing in bands?
I started playing in bands in middle school, just playing silly stuff, playing drums with a friend of mine. And then in high school
here, was that in the States when you got here, or no?
No, that was back in Switzerland. So, I was very young. But then in high school, I started playing in a band with some friends, and that didn't really do much. And then in college, I just kind of played my own stuff, a lot of kind of concert coffee house kind of things, and solo acoustic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to college for music, or no? Something totally different?
No, I didn't. No, okay. I went. I studied philosophy and foreign languages.
Oh, cool! Very cool. Yeah. And you were doing singer-songwriter thing, and then how does the band begin?
Yeah, so after college, I had this dream that the way to be a musician is to just tour and to just go and hit the road, and so
How far off.
Yeah. So I tried to set up this whole like nationwide tour of my music, and me and my friend Devin, we went to, we just kind of set this up ourselves. So I would just email different venues, and most of them would just send me an email back that said, hey, you don't have a draw or anything, and here's a venue we recommend if you to establish yourself in this city. And it's usually just this like divey shithole. Sorry if I don't know.
No, you can say whatever you want. Of course you can. Awesome.
This divey shithole of a bar. And we'd show up and play for whoever the regulars were, and we didn't make any money or anything. We spent a lot of money on that trip, but it was a really fun experience to just kind of get out into the country and see what different places are like. Mm-hmm. So then after that, started working a desk job, and I hated it, and I kept the band going kind of as a hobby on the side. And then at one point I lost my job. I was laid off, and at that point I was collecting unemployment and severance, and so I was like, well, might as well give this music thing a shot, because if I don't do it now, I probably never will. So yeah, and then things just kind of worked out in a way that kept the ball rolling until now. So.
And how do you meet Cali and the rest of the members of the band?
So we were playing with a cellist for about 2 years, and then she left the band. And then our initial member, Devin, met Cali at an open mic. And Cali, funnily enough, was playing one of her last shows with her band at the time at that open mic. And the other person in the band and in her band at the time is now in our band. So it all kind of comes full circle. So she was playing. Yeah, she was in a duo with this guy, John, who now has joined our band as our guitar player and synth player. And yeah. And then our fourth member, Ariel, who plays drums, we met him through the recording process. So we recorded at a place called Dimension Studios in Boston, and Ariel was an engineer there and a co-producer, and so he's worked on all of our albums, since the very beginning. And so he joined kind of through that. We became friends, and yeah, he's played every role in the band that there is. So
wow. And so once the band kind of starts, you guys get your group together, what is the first kind of thing that was there a moment that kind of validated the band, like, okay, we should keep this going? Or like, was that after a bit of time? Like, tell me about how the ball started to get rolling with the band.
Yeah.
Like it must be just so many little moments.
Right. I mean, I think one of the big things that I always think about is for us, we started out playing a lot of college shows.
Okay.
And so it was a way, there's a whole college circuit, and colleges are some of the last places that actually have money for little known artists. And so, you know, you can actually make a living and, you know, be able to afford being a musician by playing these college shows, and then kind of build your tours around the anchor dates of the college shows, where you're actually getting paid some money, but the shows aren't great, but you're getting a decent fee.
And it's great practice as well.
Right.
And there's probably a big built-in audience there, or not?
Absolutely.
Sometimes,
so much.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you have kids, you know, eating lunch with their headphones on and doing homework, and they just would rather if we were not there. And
So
other times,
Yeah.
it's a
Go ahead.
full
Sorry.
crowd.
Well, how
No,
does
go
that
ahead.
work? Like I've heard other artists talk to me about these college shows, and I guess, and I'm thinking of a college show. I don't really even know what I'm thinking about. I think maybe I'm thinking of like a frat party or something, and that's probably not at all
Like
what
the
you're
fun
talking about.
ones.
That
Yeah,
is,
like
it
sorry,
runs
go
the
ahead.
gamut. Yeah, it runs the gamut completely. It's like you can get anything from a, you know, big show with thousands of kids that are all there to see you play, or you can get like a lunchtime, you play for 40 minutes while everyone's eating their lunch and no one's paying attention. So it's just anything in between, frat
Okay.
parties included.
So you would what, reach out to college and say, "Hey, we're a band and we want to come through and play." Like, would you just reach out to this? If someone was listening and they're like, "How do you do this?" Like, what was the step?
Yeah,
We had a
there's
college agency actually.
right. There's
Oh.
a whole circuit. It's called the NACA circuit, NACA.
Mhm.
And they do conferences. And so each region has its own conference once a year. And the way the conference works is essentially like a trade show where you get a booth as an artist. And, you know, it's not just musicians, it's magicians or like any like speakers, any entertainment that could come to a college, you would find there. And so then
wow.
the colleges all send their representatives to these conferences, and then they have showcases, and then they book people right there at the conference. And so you can end up going to some of these conferences and end up with like 30 different college gigs all in the same area of the country. So then you can kind of build your tour around that.
That's amazing. That's a really
Yes.
cool thing. I didn't know that. That even existed. I'm thinking that you're like cold emailing like the dean, like, "Hey, you know, do you got $50? We'll come through and play some show." But wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that at all. So it started there. You'd start doing the college circuit and things start building just because you're playing so much in front of people.
But you're gathering a great audience in all these cities. You would not normally be able to play for enough people and be able to afford a tour. But if you're playing colleges, you're getting college age students, people. And so as we grow as a band, these kids are growing up and now they're in their 20s and they can afford a ticket and they remember us from college and they'll come see us again. So it was a great way to build our band.
That's really cool. That is really cool. It's interesting that you said that. Yeah, because in your college kids, you don't have any money. You're eating ramen or whatever.
Yeah.
And then once you start getting older, I did radio for a long time, and it's like the demo I was always in was 18 to 34-year-olds. And like we'd have great numbers, and like all the top 40 stations are that's their demo, 18 to 34. But if you look at the ad money, it's always to the classic rock and the old stations, because those are the people that care about like Aflac or whoever, like some insurance company, or they're looking to buy a Kia or whatever it is. If you're 18 to 22, you're not paying much attention probably to that stuff. But that's funny but that's a great idea to kind of, they get older with your band, and their band that they saw as small, and you guys are progressing and they're progressing with you, and it's kind of like a cool, like I was there when they started type deal. It's awesome.
We get some people like that at a lot of shows, people who are like, "We saw you in the cafeteria at this college, way back when." And it's great. It's not something that you don't want to stay in the college circuit. You don't want to only do the college circuit.
Yeah, you want to hopefully graduate.
You want to get to a place where you're playing venues and but as
you don't want to be 40
it's...
plus and still in college circuit.
Right. I don't know. Maybe some people make a whole career out of that. We shouldn't say that.
You can totally do that. Yeah.
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 That's funny.
I just wouldn't want to, but
when you 2012 you put out The Devil in the Deep. Is that your first record?
That was it was an EP. Yeah, it was the first thing we did. Yep, and we recorded it in Boston, and yeah.
I wasn't in the band yet at that time.
Okay. When did you join the band then, Callie?
I joined, 2014.
I think so.
I think so too. Maybe 13.
So what was the first record then that you were on?
I was on A Wolf in the Doorway.
Okay. And from there on. And at that point, that the college circuit was obviously still happening. That was part of that. It was. Okay.
Yeah, maybe for another couple years. And then we still play one or two of those colleges.
Really?
And that's it. Yeah, they have a great program. There's actually an amazing one at Bates College.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful room. A lot of people come. It's a listening space, so they really pay attention to the music, and they buy merch after, and it's more like a normal show, and they're just doing a great job.
Very cool. What would you say the next big milestone? I mean, once you get out of the college circuit, you have with The Wolf in the Doorway, you have a full record out at this point. Like, what was the next, progression in the band?
That summer, we when we released A Wolf in the Doorway, we played a couple of great festivals. I think this was the year that we played Boston Calling in the spring, and then we played Newport Folk Festival for the first time in late July. Okay. And we played a lot of shows and a lot of festivals at that time. We were in the years where we could not say no. We felt like we couldn't say no to anything. So we toured very hard, and I think it benefited us very much. And along with those festivals, we felt just a slight bump, and things were improving enough where we could move out of our apartments and just tour full time and really, really dive into the entire band and submit.
That was
surrender everything.
That's the dream, right? I mean, to be able to just make a living, like a legitimate living off of doing what you love. Sorry, you were gonna say something, Martin? Go ahead.
Yeah, it was also the first time that we sold out a bigger venue in our hometown in Boston. So we sold out the Sinclair in Cambridge, which is like a 625 cap room. And so it just felt like, once you establish yourself in your hometown, then you can kind of make the case that, okay, it's working here, so it's going to work in other places too. And we can just kind of make the circle bigger and bigger. And that was kind of the plan from then on out.
Wow. I think I watched an interview you all did at Boston Calling. I was just kind of, when I was doing research, and I think it was you, Martin, the kid asked a question, and he said something, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the first time there. You're like, you said something about like the plus was that you got 3-day tickets or something like that. You're like, yeah. And I got 3-day passes, and like, that made it worthwhile. Or it was just really funny, like the answer that you gave to the kid. And he was kind of like, like thrown off. But anyway, that's funny. So that's huge. Big moment, selling at this big club. And then things just kind of progress from that point? Was there a big spike in something? I mean, you have a huge song here on Spotify with Bees. Was that something that happened early on, or was that a Spotify streaming thing that landed later?
It was funny. I mean, with Wolf in the Doorway, we got our first label, and so that was kind of it wasn't a huge spike or anything, but it was, we were in with, right.
It was nice to know someone else believed in us. Besides just our team.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
that must have been cool to share with your dad, right? Like, hey, we're in this band and it's working and we're signed to a label, because I bet that's what his goal was and his dream, aside from his parents not being supportive of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you remember calling him and telling him?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I remember calling my parents, and they've been so supportive, and they're so proud of us. So it's a really nice relationship there.
That's awesome. And when you signed to the label, what did they do for you? They put you as an opener on a big tour, or
no? It was a very small label. We already had a booking agent, and so we were very busy for the next 2 years. We were barely at home. There was one year where we had 14 days at home total in the year.
Wow.
So it was like, we were just kind of traveling, seeing the country, and playing tons and tons of shows.
The label really helped with financial support.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we learned a lot from this label as well, because I don't think we understand quite how labels work in this world, but I think they should just be a bank and support. And that's what this label was. And they're so artist friendly. They're the most wonderful people, and they really just love music. So they helped us pay for things. They advanced things so we could afford them and then tour and then make that money back later.
Gotcha.
And it was a great introduction into what a label should be for us. We got really lucky.
That's really cool.
But then
go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I cut you off.
I was gonna say it's funny because the next album, Deadeye, we shopped around to a bunch of different labels because we thought this is a good album. It's got some good songs on it. People will want this, and no label wanted it. So we were kind of disappointed, and then we just said, well, all right, we'll just self-release it then. We'll just put it on all the streaming platforms. We'll buy our own vinyl and all that, and we'll just go for it. And then months and months later, that's how we got our current record deal, because the CEO, the president of our current label, heard that song Bees and offered us a contract on the spot. So it was like,
wow,
it was a pretty initially a pretty disappointing thing that we were hoping that someone might be interested in offering us a deal, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah, you guys are on network now.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's a great label. It's a big label, and that's really awesome. And I was gonna say, so he heard Bees, and so you self-release this record, you press the vinyl yourselves, you put it on the streaming platforms, and the biggest song you have is on this independently released record, which is probably a huge, validating moment for you all. Like, well, we told you, type deal. But I mean, to see that song, was that a kind of a gradual build, or like, did you see that one really, working early on?
That song did well right from the beginning.
It did pretty well,
but there was a big spike once network came along.
But it got on the playlist. It got on the Coffee House playlist on Spotify early on, and that really kickstarted the whole thing, because it's a big playlist, and so a lot of people are hearing the song, and it's still on that list. So
that's awesome. It's it's incredible how much power these streaming services have now. I mean, it used to be, I guess, the radio. Like if your song on the radio is like next level, but now if you get playlisted by like an editorial playlist on Spotify, it can honestly change your life.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they have a lot of power.
Yeah.
For better or worse. Yeah.
Right. I mean, they could just pluck you out of a thing and go, oh, this is a cool song. And then, the streams just go crazy. But obviously it has to be a good song, or nobody, you'd still not, it would just be skipped in the playlist. But
yeah, right.
Well, tell me, I did read a bit about the new stuff you have coming out, and kind of how the pandemic was quite a big effect on how the outcome of the song came, or how the song came. Like, tell me about 2019, end of 2019, then you're going into the pandemic, and how does that change obviously everything for everyone, but in a sense of you in your band?
Oh my, everything changed.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We were touring our last record, Unlovely, at the beginning of the pandemic.
Right, because that came out in 2020, right?
Yeah, on Valentine's Day. So not long before everything kind of went to shit. So
like weeks.
So we played like 5 or 6 shows on that tour. We got into a big car accident in Wyoming and had to cancel.
Oh my gosh.
We had to cancel a show, and then we went to Seattle and played a sold out show there. And then after that, all the, everything kind of hit the fan, and we had to cancel pretty much the rest of the tour. And then we went home, and we've been at home ever since. So,
well, oh my gosh. Wow. The car accident thing, that's crazy. So like, was anyone hurt, or like, how did you guys pass on from that? I mean, that's crazy.
We were fortunate enough to not be hurt. We were stranded in Wyoming for 3 days, unable to get anywhere, so we had to cancel shows. But we were really fortunate. It was a really scary really scary thing. So
oh yeah,
it's something that you know, when you travel as much as we do, it's bound to happen at some point. Accidents can happen. And so but you know, you never want to be in that position. So
sure.
but then, you know, the pandemic following it it was not a great 1-2 punch. So but yeah,
Yeah.
to you know, we were very disappointed because it essentially meant that our record, the record Unlovely, was just kind of skipped over. You know, it was like we promoted it, we put all this money into the tour and into recording it, and we were trying to use the tour to recoup some of our investment, and then it all kind of fell flat. And so we had to just put that one behind us and get over it in a way. And so that spurred Callie and me on to first do nothing for like 3 or 4 months, like I think most of the world did. And then we started just writing. We started writing new songs and working on new things. And our drummer during the pandemic decided to leave the band and focus on other things. And so that kind of also pushed us into figuring out what the next steps would be. And we were able to kind of get creative with it and see where we wanted to take the band.
Wow. So when you were in Seattle, that was a huge hub for all of the virus and everything else.
Right.
And to play when you played the sold out show, do you remember what day or what part of the month it was in?
Yeah, it was March 4th or 5th,
something like that.
Okay, 7th, the first week of March.
It was first week of March. So there was like probably it's hard to like grasp time now. Like I'm trying to figure out, like I'm trying to remember when like when Tom Hanks got it. That was the turning point. Tom Hanks got the virus, and it was like, and then the NBA shuts down and all that. But like I've talked to other artists that were on the road, and they would start seeing their crowds like a sellout show. Was it packed, or did you know that it was sold out and like 3/4 of the people were there?
It was packed.
Okay.
It was the last packed show for sure. Okay. But of ours.
Right.
Oh, here our dog's here. So
that's fun. Totally cool. Beagle, or is it basset? Oh, Beagle.
No, he's a Beagle.
He's a Beagle,
okay. Yeah. When he was wandering back there, I couldn't tell if he was a basset hound. So it was a packed show. That's great.
It was
great in the sense that that there's people there, and it's all because like I said, I've heard stories of people are like, oh, like we knew we sold this many tickets and half the people were there because they were worried about what was going on, and obviously no one knew that it was going to be as serious as it was, and here we are 2 years later, still kind of feeling the wrath of it. But okay, so this happens, then you go home, and
then
when do you start writing the record?
Yeah, so we played Seattle. It was so much fun. I think next was like Reading or
Portland. We
did Portland.
Yeah.
No, Portland was before that. Okay.
No, it was after. Yeah.
Those were sold out too. Anyway, we played a very sparsely attended show in San Francisco, and things were really starting. I think everybody was talking about it. No one was wearing masks yet, but it was a funny environment. And then we flew home before LA. We didn't play that show. And we started just watching news and panicking for 4 or 5 months. And then we started the next album.
Okay. And so talk to me about the new songs you've released. It's going to be an EP, right? The full.
No, it'll be a full album.
Full album. It's coming out in July 15th. Okay, so the full record's coming out. The next single coming out on Friday. Is that what I read?
On the April 6th.
So April 6th. Okay, I thought it was on the 1st. April 6th, and that's Harry Styles.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to hear about writing these songs. Like, so once you decide, okay, the pandemic is a thing. How are we going to move forward? Let's start writing a record. Like, what does that look like?
For us, it was really fun because we knew we were going to be kind of in our house for a while. And so we got some equipment and really kind of built out our home studio a little bit more. And we started just writing and demoing out a bunch of these songs. And we had a little more time at home. And so it was a fun process creatively, trying to, figure out what we wanted these songs to sound like without any external, feedback or anything. We just kind of did what we wanted to do. And yeah, so it was a really fun songwriting process. And a lot of the songs deal with either wanting to travel or missing the road, or some of the things that are happening in the world. So yeah, we had a good time with it together, even though we were in a pretty sad place overall, obviously.
Sure. Well, okay. You guys are engaged, correct? Or am I? Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations. When did you guys get engaged?
Oh, so many years ago now.
Yeah.
3 years
really?
ago? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Before the pandemic, and we were going to get married initially in 2020.
September.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get married this September.
Yeah.
Oh, really? When? What day? Tell me the
10th.
23rd, because never mind.
Are you getting married too?
No, that's my birthday. I'm already married.
Oh, nice.
That's cool that you guys are engaged. That's amazing. So it was probably easier to be at your house writing together, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And are you two the main songwriters or were you the main songwriters even prior to the bass, or you said the drummer left the band?
Yeah.
Okay. So was it easier? Like, was this an unconventional way to write? Was just at your house between the two of you, or is this pretty, it was familiar?
Pretty familiar, pretty usual. We were already writing all the material, but oftentimes it would be more separate at first. So like, I would write a song, bring it to Cali, and then we would work on it together. In this case, there were still some songs that were like that, but then more often than not, we would sit down and write things together right from the get-go. Or I would come up, or one of us would come up with a line or something, and then we'd use that as a jumping off point and build the song around that.
It was also just nice to have time and space to write things and make a little voice recording or a demo instead of cut everything off and play a show. We just had way too much time. So it was great.
That was a good thing, you think, having all that time. Did you ever get to a point where you're like overthinking a song or overthinking something in the record?
I hope not. We tend to, when we write and when we record, we tend to stop as soon as things feel tense and it's too hard to get something out. We just, we don't try to fight through it. We just stop and we try something new, try a different song.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were a couple songs that we worked on initially and we brought them to the studio, but pretty quickly we were like, this just isn't, it's not sounding
quite finished, or
it's not sounding the way that we had imagined it. And so then we just said, all right, let's just scrap this one and go back to the drawing board at a later time. And
luckily we had 10 songs that were completely ready to go, and those 10 made it on the album.
Okay. And with the room you're in now, is that where you guys practice, or are you recording there? Like I just see a kit with a bunch of mics.
Yeah, we're actually at our drummer's new home in Western Mass.
Okay.
And we're rehearsing for the tour.
Wow, very cool. And did you record the new record at all at your home, or was it done just demoed there and then you went to a proper studio to finish it?
Yeah, we recorded it on Nantucket at our friend's studio.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We did some overdubs and vocal, last minute vocal things, a couple of things at home, but mostly at the studio.
Okay. And with the new song Harry Styles, what can you tell me about that one? Is it about Harry Styles himself?
Sure.
It is absolutely about Harry Styles. We both really love Harry Styles. We think, other than the fact that he's a very good-looking man,
he is just a very good-looking man.
Yeah, I agree. But we think he's such a good role model for young boys and people in general. But he's kind of the antithesis of toxic masculinity, So I think he stands for the right things, and he's just a really, really good person for young boys to look up to, I think. So, but the song is about, there was a time during the pandemic where Cali was sitting in front of our fireplace and she looked up at me and she just said, I think I'm in love with Harry Styles. And my first thought, well, my first thought wasn't like, ouch. It was more like, no, you can't have him. Like he's mine. I love Harry Styles. And so the whole song is kind of a funny take on, me daydreaming about Harry Styles and how it's okay that I love him and she loves him too, and he's great enough. Love him. Yeah, everyone can just love Harry Styles.
That's really funny. Ever met him?
No.
Oh, well, I don't know. Sometimes you could be playing a festival that he's at. You never know. I mean, the industry is pretty tight knit. someday. And your tour starts a couple days after the record comes out, or the song Harry Styles comes out, I should say.
Yeah. I think our first show is April 14th in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excited? Yeah. I mean, this is probably the first tour back from a pandemic.
Yeah, first real tour. Yeah,
we are so excited. Just amazing. We're counting down.
Yeah,
painful days.
Do you feel like you're going to be able to kind of give that record that came out in the beginning of February on Valentine's Day 2020 another kind of go? Or are you going to play a lot of songs from that record, or just kind of that ran its course already and you're just going to move kind of forward?
Yeah, more the latter, I think.
Okay.
Sadly enough, but it's we always like focusing on the things that we did most recently, and so we're excited about the new album. So we'll play some songs off that one, but kind of similarly how we'll play songs from the older records too. But
not spend too much time on it. More time than you would any other album.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Very cool. Well, Callie Martin, thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I do have one more quick question. If I can get an answer from both of you, that'd be awesome. If you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah. Do you want to go first? You want me to?
Sure. My favorite piece of advice is probably opportunities will come, and some of them will seem huge, like you can't possibly pass them up. But people in the music industry often are out for money. They're looking for the wrong things. I think it's best to take a moment when you get an opportunity, decide if it's right for you, and either let it go if it's not, or do it if it seems right. Because if it was meant to be for you, if you're going to work out in this world, it will come around again. And it might come back when you're more prepared and less excited and in a position where you could make a big mistake and give away rights or lose too much money, or just, I don't know, pick the wrong thing for yourself because you were so excited about that little opportunity that maybe felt really big at the time. So just like taking a pause and getting some advice from people is my advice.
I love it. What about you, Martin?
That's great. I would say don't make the mistake that I made, which is, don't try to bite off too much in the very beginning of your career. Don't try to, start small and really spend your time building your hometown and the surrounding towns and building a really good tight-knit audience there before you start having these big dreams of touring the country like I did, because you will end up spending a lot of money and it will not be worth it. It is most worth it to build slowly and kind of spiral outwards from your hometown. Bringing it backward.